Hello and welcome to this very cold Encore Offstage podcast. It's a theatrical podcast where we talk about all things theatre. I'm Ben Bradley.
I'm Adam Guest.
And I'm Lucy GAZZARD. Welcome.
Welcome back, guys.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
In the flesh.
Absolutely.
In the cold flesh.
Which was
very cold flesh.
Slightly terrifying because Ben said it's been a year since we've seen each other in person.
Yes,
so
since we've seen each other. I've seen Adam, but I haven't seen Lucy for a year.
That's
so
terrifying.
He didn't want to see me, but he's seen me.
I've seen you. I have to see you. Yeah.
He was still in the greenhouse last time.
Yes, we've let you out. How was your week in the greenhouse?
Very warm.
Yeah.
A lot warmer than it is at the minute.
I know. Why aren't we recording in there? It made a lot more sense.
And you got some nice plants going in there.
And there's fairy lights at night as well.
There are fairy lights
there
at
are.
night. I've watered the plants for you.
Thank you very much.
Watered. They're hydrated, let's put it like that.
Brilliant.
Hydrated those hydrangeas.
Hey!
There we go.
That's the pinnacle of our
We are
funny...
here all day, quite literally. Okay, this week, Lucy, what are you bringing?
Well, I am bringing a topic for you both this week.
Okay, I've got a quiz.
And I'm going to be chatting, with West End choreographer and performer William Spencer.
Ooh. Exciting. What should we go to first?
Shall we start with a quiz?
Yes,
okay,
we love a quiz to
We love a
warm
quiz.
us
We
up.
love a quiz on
We
the
love
show.
the quiz we do.
Okay.
That we do there, my lovers.
So, Adam, no cheating because you can probably see the screen.
I can
but
see bits.
can you guess these 10 famous musical characters' surnames?
Oh.
That's
So
a good one.
we'll do it individually,
Okay.
like we did last week. But because there's 10, we can do
5 each.
5 each. Oh, it's not a tiebreaker then, is it?
It's alright.
For some reason I thought 10
Well-
was divisible by 3.
Well,
Why break with tradition?
If I'm being honest, I'm terrible with names in person normally, so remembering fictional surnames is not going to be my bag.
Great. This is going to go really well. So, question 1. Let's press the start button. There we go. What is Matilda's surname from Matilda the Musical? Adam.
Yes, me. Woodward.
It is. Well done.
I think that's probably the only one I knew.
Oh, good. Okay, next one. Ooh, this is a hard one. What is Marius's surname from Les Miserables?
That is a hard
Oh,
one.
we've got the options. We've got now French pronunciation. It's going to go really well.
Oh, I'm going to
I don't speak French. Bon Mercy. Isn't thank you, I presume. Pont Mercy, Von Percy, or Bon Percy.
You know, it's like I'm sat in Paris right now. I can see the
I-
Eiffel
I'm not
Tower,
good with languages.
surrounded by
I did German at school, not French.
I think I'm going to go with C's, I don't know.
Von Percy. No, it's Pont Mercy.
Oh, that would have been my second guess.
Pont Mercy.
Hey,
Ponder replay.
Marius Pont
Pont
Mercy.
Mercy.
Ponder
yeah.
Mercy.
Brilliant. Okay,
Pont
what is Jenna from Waitress's surname?
Mercy. Not a clue. Not even seen it.
Neither have I, so I've got no idea
Give him
either.
the options.
Smith.
So, the,
What are the options?
the options are Hutchinson, Humberson, Hunterson, Atkinson.
Humberson.
Humberson, okay. It's wrong. The answer is Hunterson.
Oh, Hunterson. That was what I was going for.
I
Okay.
knew that one because I've
I
seen
got that right 'cause
Waitress.
that was the one I wanted.
Great show, you need to see it.
Is it?
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Great show.
Is it about
Okay.
baking?
Baking is involved. No, basically she gets pregnant from her crappy husband, and then she has an affair. So it's kind of sort of dealing
Oh,
with
so
that.
I thought about baking pies.
So
It's
she
not-
she does bake pies, and they do feed into the songs because
Okay.
sort of she bakes her emotions into the pie, and there's a contest to win $10,000. So she's trying to get to this competition so she can leave him behind and get a better life for herself.
That actually sounds really quite good.
It's really good, and also the supporting characters are excellent in it as well.
I know Joe Sugg went into it, and that annoyed me. Don't know why.
Yeah,
Just
he did, didn't he?
Yeah, but was it Oggy?
I think so. Yeah, Oggy,
Yeah.
who is hilarious actually as a character.
Maybe we
Oggy.
need a podcast trip. I know it's coming round. Maybe we'll do a podcast trip. Right. Lucy, what is Charity's surname from Sweet Charity? Is it Valentine, Sunshine, Bannatyne, or Calamine?
I think it's. I have a feeling it's.
She's at the bottom.
I have a
Do you know
feeling
what?
it's
I don't care about this
Valentine.
quiz. I just want to
Yeah,
hear Ben say these surnames.
just Ben's awful pronunciation.
What is it? Is it
Calamine?
Calamine?
Yeah.
Is it calamine?
Yeah.
It's a type of lotion,
Is that
isn't
a
it?
lotion, isn't it?
Like chicken pox, if you
Yeah.
kids get...
So what is she named after?
I-
Valentine, Sunshine, Valentine, or
I think she's
Chicken pox.
Valentine.
is she Valentine? Shall we have a look? Charity Valentine is correct.
Hey, well done.
Well done.
I do like Sweet Charity as well, actually. That's really good.
Alphabet from Wicked. Is it alphabet thrup, thrap, throp, or thrip?
Throp.
Thrup with a U.
Yeah.
Wrong. It's throp with an O.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
Lucy, pretty from Everybody's Talking About Jamie. Is her surname? Pasha, Chanel, Paxton, or New? So pretty Pasha,
Yeah.
pretty Chanel, pretty Paxton, or pretty New?
I think it's Pasha.
Correct.
Ooh, well done,
He's
Lucy.
taking the charge on this.
Because I remember the alliteration. I thought it sounded really pretty. Like, just the name.
Cool. Roger from Rent.
Oh,
Oh, this is a good
Evans, Taylor, Wilson, or Davis?
they had to be so generic, didn't they?
one. I mean, he was quite generic as a
He
character.
was. Roger Davis, Roger Taylor. Hang on,
Roger.
we've not pressed the button yet.
I'm waiting. I'm getting ready.
What were they? Davis, Taylor.
Roger Evans, Roger Taylor, Roger Wilson, or Roger Davis?
Why is it that we never know the character's surnames? I don't think it's even. It must be mentioned in the chat. Roger. Torn between Evans and Taylor.
What are you going with? Pick one.
Evans.
I'm going with Evans. It's wrong. It is Davis.
Oh, I was wrong on both counts then. This quiz is fixed.
Okay.
Okay.
That cut here because I can't read what that says because it's really, really cold. So, Mama Rose from Gypsy is her surname Hovick, Preminger, Weber, or Lawrence?
I think it's Lawrence.
It's wrong. It's actually Hovick
Oh.
or Thompson Hovick.
Ah.
Okay. This one's really easy. Curly from Oklahoma. That's a week. That's a year ago today.
Is it today?
We would finish today, I think.
I know,
That's
crazy.
sad.
That is sad.
Okay, Curly from Oklahoma. Is his surname Merriam, Colcord, McLean, or Langdon?
McLean.
Of course, you're correct. Okay, last one for Lucy.
McLean.
He sounds like a superhero with like McLean. You can tell
Curly,
he's going to
Curly
be
McLean.
You'd have a TV series named
Yeah.
after him. Mine's just McLean. Curly McLean.
Okay.
PC McLean.
What's the superpower?
Detective McLean. He's got really curly hair.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Can he like send it out to catch people?
No, he's a detective.
Detective, not superhero.
Oh, I thought it was superhero.
McLean.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who are we going to cover? Going to cover McLean.
Okay.
DC McLean.
DC McLean.
I hear his hair is so
I'm-
curly, he gets all the secrets in there.
Once she's tied up in his curls, there's no getting out of them.
Are we finished? The cut symbol. There is a big cut here because we went on a long 5-minute ramble
That's
about
not computer.
all kinds of random things that you're probably going to see in another outtake.
All because Ben couldn't
Can't
pronounce
read.
this
Okay.
lady's
So we're going to give it
name.
another go. So, Anna from The King and I for the final question of this quiz.
Call me Anna, yeah.
No, you can't because you might win then. So, it's all rigged against you. So, Anna from The King and I is her surname Campbell, Leon Owens, Landon, or Gunnis?
I'm going to say C, Langdon.
You say C. Landon.
If I get this right, can I win it?
What's the current points on?
Well, if I lose this, you'll win anyway.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Okay. It is not Langdon.
Is it
it's
Lee Owens?
Leon Owens.
That was my second guess.
So who won that then, Lise?
Adam won by 1 point. Well done.
Oh, nearly pulled the cable out of my microphone, but yeah.
Way! Okay, well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well done. Oh, that took far longer than it was meant to.
It's all right.
Shall we
We're
go
having fun.
to a guess?
Yes,
Mr.
I am.
Guest.
Oh yes, I am a guest. I am Adam Guest. You want to go to the special guest?
The special guest.
That's me.
There was a cut there, and we're not going to tell you why.
No.
So, Mr. Guest,
Yeah.
moving on from the mysterious cut,
Yeah.
what have you got for us now?
I have got a guest for you.
You have got a guest,
I've
Mr.
got a
Guest.
I was very, very fortunate. Somebody I've known for quite a few years, but he's been very busy, and he's given us a lot of special time to talk to us. I managed to catch up with West End choreographer and performer William Spencer.
Ooh,
Transition.
transition.
So we're here with William Spencer, West End performer and choreographer. First of all, William, thank you ever so much for taking the time out to chat with us. I must apologise for the budgies in the background, but yeah, tell us a little bit about what you've got going on at the moment. Not all. We're going to touch on it in a minute, but you're very busy at the moment, aren't you?
I'm trying to be. I think it's been a crazy kind of year, sort of. So I've really been trying to. I was very unfortunate, I guess, like a lot of people in that I had a lot of work planned that was kind of scuppered by the pandemic. But I really wanted to make sure I could hit the ground running, and so I kind of, with the time that I had so much time to kind of read material and connect with new writers and things, and I really wanted to spend that time just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck. And I'm very lucky that actually quite a few of those projects have kind of been picked up or are in development. And yeah, I'm really lucky. But I also did, put in a lot of hard work to make sure that I had some of those opportunities to kind of, make this work kind of happen as soon as theatres opened up again. Yeah.
Well, you and I, we've worked with each other in the past, admittedly quite a long while ago, but I want to go back to the beginning if I can.
Yeah,
what was it that made you get involved in performing and theatre? Was it? I know you're an amazing dancer,
thank you.
and performer and singer. You're a general triple threat all round.
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
What was it that started everything off?
I really started in dance, like very much in dance, and I went to see, my mum took me to see a ballet when I was, I think, about 3. I think it was the Nutcracker, and I kind of just saw something and said, right, I want to do that, and just haven't really looked back. That's always kind of been my ambition since a very young kid, sort of starting lessons. And I kind of then progressed and like went to school and realized that really I needed to kind of look at singing and acting more, and how I could make this passion translate into a viable career, I guess. And so from that, I started doing kind of amateur productions, as a lot of people start off, which was great. It's a really great theatre scene in Nottingham. A lot of people very passionate and very talented, and willing to help someone kind of get on that ladder. And I was really lucky that I had that. And then I moved off to London when I was 18 to kind of study at a conservatoire and learn as much as I could and just absorb all that information. Then I took a couple of years off in the middle of my studying to have hip surgery from an ongoing injury that I had, which is quite, which is stopping me really from being able to achieve what I wanted. And in that time, I again worked on some productions in Nottingham, and I went and I interned for Drew McConey, who's like a massive force of kind of dance. He's just incredible, and really, really learned a lot from kind of just shadowing him and seeing, having more insight into professional productions. Then I went off and graduated and kind of entered the industry from there, really.
Okay, well, let's go back a little bit. So you mentioned about amateur theatre, and what was some of the standout shows for you from amateur theatre that you got involved with?
So, oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, I loved doing Rent when I was 18. That was just a real moment in my life. That was the Arts Theatre, which was where I did my first show when I was 4. So to go back sort of 14 years later into that space and really feel kind of my life coming full circle before I knew I was going to go off to university to study. It was really, really, it played a huge part in my life, kind of personally and professionally, and I really loved doing that. So that was a real standout. It was a chance to really sing. I hadn't really sung publicly much before that. It was all very much dance orientated. And so that gave me the chance to really explore my voice. And so I really enjoyed that. That stood out. I think another one would be Sweeney Todd, which was is an incredible show, and I really learned a lot from that about stamina and kind of what people expected professionally from you in a kind of a, what I would say was quite a big budget production for kind of like a semi-pro amateur professional kind of hybrid. I learned so much from working on that show, and again about my voice. Like, it was a very vocal show because I was obviously injured as a dancer at the time. So I think the main thing that I learned from those productions was really how to sing, I guess, and how to use my voice and how to integrate that into the rest of my performance.
So I remember you doing Sweeney Todd, and you say you learned how to sing, but you could sing already, which is always one thing as performers is we're quite modest, aren't we, people?
In Britain.
You mentioned about this injury. Was this? You say you took a couple of years out. Was it something that happened suddenly, or was it something that was over time?
It was something I'd been struggling with since I started to study at 18 when I went to London, and it basically it was misdiagnosed for a long time, where they thought it was one kind of thing. It was a strain that could be worked out with like lots of stretching and lots of kind of physiotherapy. And then kind of a year and a half in, I finally had some more diagnostics in hospital, and they basically discovered that there was a problem with my bones, and that basically my bones were the wrong shape, and they were, rather than being a ball and socket, it wasn't moving properly, which meant that all of the stretches I was doing to kind of help this were actually just making it worse. And this is a time when I was doing sort of boys ballet, like every day, jazz every day, tap, kind of heavy, intensive professional training. And I was just, I was in so much pain from this misdiagnosis, really. And so I kind of had to stop and take some time out and really end up having 3 hip surgeries, which as a 20-year-old aspiring dancer is not something that you really want to hear. But I didn't really see myself as having a choice. I kind of either did this and had the career that I wanted. There was no other choice for me.
I remember when we first met, you were in the middle of this, I don't want to say downtime, this period of recovery for yourself, and we did punk rock together. And I remember watching you in punk rock, and you stood out, yards. Your talent and everything else was impeccable. And to know that you were still recovering from this as well, how did it feel when you had a chance to sort of get back to dancing properly again?
It was a really, really long journey, because although with a piece of surgery like that, you expect, the recovery is sort of 6 months. It really kind of took me probably about 4 years to completely recover, even to the point where I'd graduated and was working professionally and still not at the top of my game. But when I got back to it, it was hard work. I'd started from scratch. I started with my very basic ballet, my pliés, my tendus, kind of in beginners classes, in order to kind of build that strength and that mobility back. It was really, really difficult. But I also don't feel like I had a choice. I feel like that was my path, and I kind of had to just get on with it and do it. But it was a really interesting time in my life to kind of be away from that after having, there's no time in my memory when I haven't been dancing. I started lessons when I was 3. So I can't really remember a time without that. So it was interesting to discover this part of my existence that, kind of lived outside of that. And even though I was still really passionate about it, to then kind of branch out into other things like, with the acting and the singing, and that kind of creative side was really interesting, to be forced to look to explore those other avenues. Yeah.
So we're going to go forward a bit now in time, and we're going to look at. So you've recovered. You've had this surgery. You've put this immense hard work in, as you've said, and you're now living in London. And I don't think it's unfair to say that you're a bit of a tour de force when it comes to, like choreography, performing, in with certain groups. You did Under the Opera.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I'm really, really lucky that I have a certain, kind of collect group of producers that really believe in me, and choreographers and mentors. I started off choreographing as an assistant to someone who's I've worked with since, who's just really mentored me, and it's really kind of just was a springboard from that. But I only got that position because I was working with them as a performer. So I spent a couple of years I did Spamalot, and I did Rodgers and Hammerstein, Cinderella, like regionally, and I did a couple of plays, and then I went off and did a big, like a huge cruise ship. It was like very commercial work, and really kind of did some very varied, some pretty varied work kind of within musical theatre, before I came back to London and decided I was going to try and basically take on London and see if I could make it, and was lucky enough to get cast in Grind of the Opera, which had 2 runs and kind of ran for a few months, and was this big kind of off-Broadway kind of giant with this huge title, and like a lot of press coverage, sort of all the way like from your national newspapers like to the Economist, and it was really everywhere. So that was really lovely to kind of get that springboard and get a taste of what that was like, and the political side of theatre, which is so prevalent. like how well can you market a show, and you can have the best show in the world, but if it's not marketed properly and it doesn't have an audience, then it doesn't really matter. Because if no one gets to see that piece of art, then it almost doesn't exist. If it belongs in the eye of the beholder, that's how it exists. So that was a really real learning curve for me as a performer, to see that happen, to see that the journey of that show go from kind of almost very small scale production to something much bigger. Really enjoyed learning about stuff on that, and making those connections with that choreographer who really took a liking to me and took that chance and kind of saw how passionate I was and wanted to put that to use and give me an opportunity.
You say learning. What was it in particular that you feel that you learned? I mean, is it skills as a choreographer, or as just to elaborate on that a little bit more?
I really, in terms of the Grind of the Opera.
Well, just you say you learn a lot, whether it's Grand of the Opera and whether it was, what skills did you get from that? What was it in particular that you feel that you took away from it?
There were a few things, really. I mean, doing a show that lasted that long, I learned a lot about how to keep it fresh, how to keep an audience engaged, and how to have a show that really made audiences laugh night after night, even if they were returning. We had people that would come back again and again, night after night. And that was kind of seeing how someone could form a production that had that kind of longevity, in contrast to something where I did, on the cruise ship, which became so monotonous for me. It was really, I had some amazing things about the contract, but it became so monotonous doing a show that had no narrative. And I think that's what I learned mostly, is that really I'm a storyteller, and I have to tell stories with my work, and I feel, that's my focus and my job, through whether it be through singing or dance, choreography or anything. It's like I have to tell that story, and I learned about how to tell those stories and communicate that across to an audience, night after night.
You answered my next question, which was going to be, out of all the various bits and pieces that you've done, which would you prefer? But speaking about how the monotony of cruise ship work, and I think I can already tell that there's a passion for the storytelling, like you say.
Yeah, definitely. Everything I would say that everything I do is narrative based, and telling a story. I think that's a particularly British trait in terms of dance, and for me, that's kind of the purpose of theatre, is to tell stories, to communicate those stories and those characters to the audience, in a way that's accessible, that they understand, or if they don't understand, making sure that that's a directional choice to kind of have that mystery. So that's definitely where I felt I kind of seemed to find my niche and figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, like what kind of impression I wanted to make on this industry and what kind of work I wanted to be known for. And
Speaking of work you want to be known for, and like we said at the start, you're a busy chap.
Right, yeah.
You've sent me a list of some things that you're involved with, and I know there's some other things as well that you can't talk about, which is absolutely fine and understandable. But let's talk about some of these things that you mentioned. You've mentioned about Sam. Is it Sam?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us some of these. Are these pieces that you've created or that you've helped create?
This one in particular is one that I helped create. A producer came to me with an idea and said, over dinner, was like, don't you think this, in passing, was told me this story, this historic true story, and said, wouldn't this be an amazing piece? And so after that, I went out and I sought a writer and kind of was like, I think this has legs as a piece. So I've kind of overseen that, done a lot of kind of dramaturgy on it, directed the readings and the workshops, and kind of found some people to read in, and kind of orchestrated that, I guess, knowing, that informally, essentially, I had a piece commissioned, I guess. So kind of trying to create that and look at the producer's needs and look at how we can display this and tell this beautiful true story. It's about a nun. She was a hospital administrator in Australia during the 1980s. She's still alive today, actually. She's in her 90s. And she kind of money laundered through the hospital to give palliative care and healthcare to these people who hospitals would refuse to see, because they were a very openly homophobic society in that part. It was in Queensland, which had a premier who was very openly homophobic during the 80s, and they refused to give any kind of funding to anyone with AIDS or HIV positive. And so the hospital kind of secretly fought back against them, getting this funding and making sure that these people were cared for, were unjudged and were cared for as patients, as people, as humans. It's an incredible true story. And so we've had a lot of fun kind of trying to do that and see how we can tell this story. And I had this idea that it's kind of set in a confessionals box as a Catholic nun, and she opens with like, "Forgive me, Father, for I have blessed. I've stolen thousands of pounds from the government," and kind of got this wonderful sense of humor to tell this this important historic story that I feel like it needs to be told.
Absolutely, it sounds amazing. And this is a play, right?
Play, yeah, it's a straight play, yeah.
And you're doing, is it Coppelia?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, doing that. So I did this last year, 2019. I did it on the Fringe for the Pride season at the Above the Stag, which is London's LGBT kind of theatre space, and was really lucky. It was very well received. I got an Offie nomination for Best Choreography, which was my second that year. So I was really, my first professional choreography credit was in the February, and I got nominated again in the July. So in the space of 4 months, I had done three or four shows as a choreographer. So from my first job to kind of my, what I consider to kind of be one of my best pieces was such a short space of time. It was really an insane whirlwind. And I loved it. I love that job. And I'm really glad that we're kind of getting to bring that back in some level. We've renamed it, and we're working to kind of improve on that first production that we had, because I was so young and so fresh as a choreographer. I think that my creative kind of style has changed slightly, and my ability to understand audiences has changed. But it's basically a gay kind of queer retelling of a very classic ballet. It's 150 years old, but I think some of the themes that are explored in it are completely relevant. And I have this notion that you have to make work relatable. And I think a lot of people wouldn't naturally go and see ballet. I think a lot of it can be very elitist and inaccessible. And so I wanted to really set it somewhere and give it a movement vocabulary that people understand, and also a music vocabulary. So we reorchestrated it for a jazz ensemble of 8 musicians, and had that wonderful score by Delibes kind of reimagined for like a jazz band, and it really gave it this wonderful jazzy kind of big band Frank Sinatra feel that just makes me want to get up and move. And And I was really glad that I kind of got to bring that to an audience that I don't think would have gone to book and see a ballet normally if it hadn't have been set in a sex shop in Soho with, you know, like a gay stag do in a gay bar. And yeah, it was so much fun and so nice to do something comedy based, that to really show audiences that wouldn't know that the ballet isn't stuffy and it isn't unrelatable, or at least, you know, hopefully not in this case. So I'm really glad that I'm getting to revive that. It was planned to go to Edinburgh last year before it was, obviously that was cancelled. So I'm glad to see that it's kind of getting another outing, and I can really take a second look and kind of tweak it and make it the best that it can be as a piece.
And you've also got, is it Boto Bigger on the Outside?
Yeah, so Big on the Outside is a musical. I'm working in development. I'm directing and choreographing this and kind of working in dramaturgy to create this new piece. So we're going to workshop, I think at the end of May, we're workshopping Act 1, kind of doing an abridged Act 1 to kind of see if it's got legs. Because you can work on a project, and really until you get in a room with those actors, you just don't know if it's going to have a feeling. I mean, so much directorial work is and choreographic work is instinct, I think, that you can't really teach. You can't really pinpoint what's wrong with it a lot of the time. It's just whether it has the right feeling, the right atmosphere, whether people are going to connect with that or not. So I'm working on this. It's about an agoraphobe living in London. We wanted to create a piece that was about lockdown without kind of mentioning it. So we came up with the idea of it being an agoraphobe living in his flat that can't leave his flat, that's kind of too scared, too traumatized to kind of leave, and everyone has to come to him, or he has these therapist sessions on Zoom. And it's all very Kafka-esque. The way I've devised it is that everyone's in the flat the entire time, but the only person that's really there is Huey, the main character. And occasionally his neighbor will pop in and out, his kind of nosy 60-year-old neighbor that comes and brings him kind of casseroles and things. It's a really interesting exploration of loneliness and being alone and trying to make human connection in a year where we're all going to be, you know, aware of what that's like and what it can mean to be isolated. But I didn't want to mention the pandemic. I thought there'll be a million shows and plays, and Edinburgh will just be full of, you know, my year in the pandemic. And I just thought, you know, we need a break from that. But what it explored, as humans, we also need to, well, particularly as British theatre goes, I think we need that catharsis. We need to have these feelings expressed, even if we're really not very good at talking about them. We still need to feel those feelings in order to exercise them and get them out of our system. And I think that theatre is a great way to do that, because you're living through someone else's story, and through that you're able to express those feelings yourself that you might not be able to express, but you're able to feel them through someone else. And I'm really glad that we're getting to explore that with this project. It's very quirky, and it's a brand new British musical that's really funny, and it's got a lot of heart, and you don't come across those very much. You know, everything nowadays is a revival or a jukebox or an adaptation. And, you know, so I'm really excited that producers kind of investing their time and their money into giving this an opportunity to see if it will work, and to see if we can kind of get away from those adaptations sometimes and have something original.
Like you say, we don't want to mention the lockdown too much. That's old news.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
So when it comes to, from what you've mentioned, a musical, a ballet, a play, you're all working on these, and sounds like you've got a plethora of really talented individuals and professionals who can be behind you when you're doing these shows.
A wonderful network of supportive creatives, collaborators, and yeah, I'm really lucky that all these people are. I have that connection with all those people, and that we get on so well.
So the inevitable question then is, what lies ahead? There's two answers to this question. What lies ahead for you, but also where do you want to go? It's all right me saying what's coming up in store. You could always tell me some of the things that you're doing in the future, but I want to know, because you're such a driven individual with everything you've said. I want to hear what you want to do, where you want to go. and what you want to see yourself doing?
I mean, I always like to think that I'm fairly open to what happens, you know, and I think I'm very, very focused, but I'm also open to where that focus will be directed. And I think the reason I wanted to do a play is because I wanted people to know that ultimately directing a ballet and directing a play, they have very different skill sets, but also a lot of it is the same. It's like, how do you communicate to an audience? And I wanted to kind of prove that I could do both, which is why I sought out a play to kind of direct, because I think there's so many parallels, and I think it's very easy for a director to then go and direct a musical if they've directed plays before. But you very rarely see that the other way around. You know, you won't get, you know, you're harder to find that person, that musical director would go and direct a play. So I think I wanted to show that really there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of crossover there. So I want to, in my future, I want to develop the ability to just work on theatre in general as a director, choreographer, kind of creative. That's my end game here, is to do that and to explore that in all kind of genres, to do it as a director and a choreographer. Yeah, that's kind of my end game. I mean, I kind of would like to do a little bit more international work. I've kind of got connections now in New York, where I was doing a lot of stuff, flying back and forth there before lockdown, and kind of had some stuff lined up there, which obviously I think they're probably a lot worse off than us. Like, I don't think Broadway is going to recover, or off Broadway is going to recover for a long time compared to what it is here.
Yeah.
So I would really like to explore that kind of in the next few years and see if there's a chance for me to kind of do something more international and really look at how other audiences function, and how other theatre communities function internationally, because audiences are very, very different, I think.
Yep.
Even in terms of something that you're going to tour or something you're going to do, you know, in the UK, and something that you bring to London, they do have very different audiences. And I just want to explore that and learn it and really push this agenda that dance is accessible. Dance in every way can and should be accessible to people, not just financially. You know, I think often the Royal Opera House and other places like that will stick a £5 ticket on their website and be like, we're being accessible. You know, we've got a wheelchair ramp, we're being accessible. And it's like, you know, as much as I think that is great, and I think it is really important they do that, I don't think that is what accessible is. I think accessible theatre is making a piece that people actually want to go and watch and will understand. And I think that's really important to recognize. So I want to push that agenda in my work. I want to make that well known, that that's what I do, is I make work relatable to an audience, and just keep directing and choreographing, you know, wherever that takes me. If that takes me to a ballet company to choreograph a piece, or it takes me to a playhouse somewhere to go and work on a play, even as a movement director, which is something that I'm looking at doing, for some stuff in the future. You know, I'm really open to that, as long as I'm making stories and I'm communicating that to an audience and I'm working on diverse and accessible, exciting work. You know, that's not a very specific answer. I'm sorry, but
no. It's more than enough. It explains everything. You want to do this. You want to do this work, but also you want to see the benefit of it as well, which is.
Yeah.
Do you last question for you, and this may be really difficult for you to answer. Do you have a magnum opus? Do you have a particular thing other than this accessibility? Do you have a particular piece or desire to make a piece of something in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much I want to do. I want to do. I'd love to do a production of The Pyjama Game, told from a modern socialist viewpoint. Really take that kind of momentum that Jeremy Corbyn had and put that into the socialist element of The Pyjama Game, and be like, these workers that are striking, kind of give it that modern twist, and like, again, try and make it accessible for audiences. I really want to take revivals and make them work now. So like West Side Story is my favorite musical ever, and I would love to do a piece that reflects today. I you know, that's kind of would be an absolute dream show for me to do. You know, if I could say now, okay, that you can produce anything that you want. You can have anything produced, any idea. I think that would be the one. Although I'm not sure that I feel ready. I feel like that's such an important show to me. Like maybe I'd want to wait a little bit and think about it a bit more. But I think that's probably, that would be great.
That's that modesty talking again, Will. You're probably ready, but you're just not ready to throw yourself into it yet.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that would be a huge project. So, yeah, we'll see. That's what I would love, though.
Well, I realise you're a busy guy, so I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of the schedule to talk to me about everything. Where just to finish off, where these projects you're working on at the moment, where can people see them eventually? Are they going to be in particular venues or?
So the King's Head in London, I've been working a lot there. That's going to have hopefully something on in July, which is relatively soon. And then the Garden Theatre I was working at last year, they're going to hopefully reopen in a new home at the end of this year. And then the workshop is in May, so hopefully that will translate into a full production at some point, but I guess that's indefinite. But yeah, mostly in London or on the fringe in London regionally. Yeah, I'd definitely say that you check out the King's Head and like keep checking on there, and there's tickets available for the stuff there coming out really soon.
Well, thank you so much for everything. And would you be happy to come back and talk to us again when you've got these productions out of the way?
Invite me whenever, and I'll be very happy to yap on. As long as you'll have me.
I'll remember that. Well, thank you so much for your time, and all the very best.
Yeah,
Thank you so. I can't believe we're sitting here going. Ooh. Thank you so much, William, for your time and you've given us. I really appreciate it because you've got a busy schedule. So thank you ever so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And keep us posted on what you're doing. Thank you.
I think it's time for a topic, Lucy. It's
Yes.
topic time.
Yes, I've got quite a nice and light topic for you.
Nice
though,
and light
today.
topic,
Nice
okay.
and light. I want you to tell me your top 3 pieces of theatre
Ooh.
and why. And you can also give me a bonus on sort of one that you think is a bit meh or you don't like.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Sorry, it was rain. I got, it was rain.
I will
Okay.
try not to draw attention to it, but it's fine.
It's fine. We need to. There might be a massive cut here because we might have to run underneath the cover. Okay.
No, that's a lie. He just had a thought about his worst one, just had
He
a really
did, yeah.
visceral
That's
reaction.
Okay, so I know what my worst is quite quickly. I'm very fortunate not to have seen anything really awful. I've never gone, that was horrific. It's only in hindsight when I try and rank all the stuff I've seen that this just naturally falls to the bottom. And it's the 2016 tour of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang with Lee Mead and Carrie Hope Fletcher, which is a shame because I really like Carrie Hope Fletcher and I thought she'd be brilliant as Trudy Scrumptious, and she was really good, but it was everything else really. So it had Sean Williamson from EastEnders in as the Baron, Michelle Collins also as the Baroness. Michelle Collins, sorry, she was really bad, and it was such a shame because the Baron and the Baroness are such important characters in Chitty, and they're really important to get them right. And they just Chitty Face, that number. It felt like that number was stretched over the entire show, and there needs to be a point. You didn't get any dark edge from them. They're meant to be a little bit, especially the Baroness. She's evil, and you didn't get that. And I just didn't. And the design wasn't great. It wasn't, and the car was a disappointment. So overall,
Wait,
it's
the car in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah.
You mind? The car in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was a disappointment.
really was because the actual prop. It looked right, but it looked a bit like... In my village, we do have a carnival yearly, right? And this bloke makes floats, and he made a beautiful chitty car, and that looked better than what they had. And the flight mechanism, it was just... Because it was a touring version, I know why it was like this, it was a touring version, but it was just on a scissor lift, and they kept it all exposed. So you could just see all the stuff pulling up and down, and a bit of
Oh,
smoke.
so it spoiled the magic.
It's really spoilt it, and when you see videos of it in the Palladium, the West End, all that sort of stuff, you can't see any of that. It just looks like it's, even on film, on phones, it's just flying.
Yeah.
This was a really big, basically even bigger than the car. It really spoilt it for me. Yeah, it's a shame. Hush By Mountain, on the other hand, was brilliant because they brought Karatka's dead wife back as a ghost, and she sang it with him, and everyone cried. It was really lovely. But that's the only good thing about that show. But it wasn't bad. It just fell to the bottom of my list of best things I've seen.
So that's
That's
Right.
the least. That's the, sort of the bottom of my list. Top of my list is Les Mis. All day, every day.
Still need to see that.
Oh, it's so good, so good. Matilda the musical. Every
Yes.
time, I've seen that twice now. I just love it. Absolutely love it. And if we're going down plays, I will always say
Yes.
Monster Calls, and I've talked about this a million times on the show, so I won't talk about it again. But they are my top 3 theatrical experiences. What about you for worst
worst,
or least best?
least best.
Worse than most.
Was the professional tour of Hairspray.
Really?
I saw it at the Curve, yeah. Really, really disappointed.
Really?
The set looked amateurish. It looked like there was doors in it that weren't supposed to be used, that they obviously just covered them up and there was no purpose for them. There was a couple of laughs. And it just didn't work for me.
Was that mostly down to who's playing Edna?
No,
No?
No,
Because sometimes
it
a lot of people say that's what makes or breaks
no,
it.
he was good. He was the guy, one of the actors from Benidorm.
Oh, yeah.
He was very good, but just in general, I just didn't think it was a very good production.
That's a shame.
That was a few years ago. It comes some of the best shows I've seen. I won't put them in order because I can't.
Yeah.
Curious Incident, The Dog in the Night Time.
I really want to see that
I've
because
seen
I love
so
the
good.
book.
On
So
tour
good.
Love
and
the
in the
book.
West End. Brilliant.
Do you see it Endon or in the round? In the West End?
I saw it end on
Okay.
in the West End.
Yeah.
Mary Poppins, the musical. Absolutely fantastic.
That is a great one for
It is a
visuals
great
as well.
one. Yep. And what was the third one? I've got to say, Les Mis was up there as well. I think to top that one, Play That Goes Wrong. Play That Goes Wrong.
Don't.
I have not, in very recent memory, laughed from start to finish all the way through a play as much as I did with that one.
I think I've seen most, if not all, of Mischief's stuff, and I've done extracts from the Play That Goes Wrong. I've played Christine,
Yeah.
and it's one of the highlights, absolute highlights for me that I've ever seen. It's just so good.
That for me is the show that got away because I was meant to go away and see that right when COVID hit last year. So I was so gutted because I heard great things, really wanted to go and see it. And even my brother, who's not a big theatre fan, he found it absolutely hilarious. And I was like, yeah, we've got tickets. And then he couldn't go.
Well,
so I still need to see
It
this
has
show
just
at some
announced a
point.
UK tour coming August this year to Theatre Royal Nottingham.
Is it?
Tickets are on sale this week.
Ooh,
Go
yes.
get them.
I'm
It's definitely worth it.
I am
Absolutely.
definitely
If you're asthmatic,
doing
take
that.
your inhaler.
Yeah.
And if you're prone to headaches when you laugh, take tablets before you laugh.
It is one of the funniest things, and even reading the script to do
Yeah.
these extracts, it's still just as funny because we did the scene with the bleach.
Yeah.
Yeah, they mixed up bleach for alcohol, and but it's in the real set people have, so they're drinking bleach, doing the scene, and then the scene itself gets stuck in a loop. The dialogue gets stuck in a loop, going round and round. So they keep having to drink the bleach and spitting it out, and it was so good to do.
Yeah.
We did it with water, and it was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
What about you, Luz?
Oh well, I'll start with my sort of like least favourite, and I don't think any disrespect to sort of like the show itself. I think it's just me personally. I went to see a production. It wasn't a musical version. It was the stage show version of Jekyll and Hyde.
Okay.
And I think it's just purely because I wanted to be scared. I was expecting it to be a lot more sort of ramp up sort of the tension and the scares for me. And it just didn't really get there for me. And I think that's not their fault though. I'm just very difficult to sort of give a scare to. Like horror houses, I'd love to be scared, but to be honest, I tend to go just for the reaction of other people to make me laugh more than anything else.
Sorry, you just sit back in the corner and watch other people get scared. What
Yeah.
sort of maniac are you?
I
Just
don't-
like
I don't get scared, but like all my friends do. So I'm like, go ahead of me. I want to see your
I feel like
reaction.
that is a challenge. She said she doesn't get scared.
Like that, I think that's probably.
We're doing a show together. She's going to hate every second of it.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing now.
Segues nicely into one of my favourite theatre moments, because I genuinely felt when I saw Dracula at the Theatre Royal in Nottingham, that did it for me. That I could feel sort of the tension building and sort of like it made me feel tense watching it. And before they'd even started, I got a jump scare because they suddenly turned off the lights and the vampires are there. I was just happily getting comfy in my seat. That scared me. So I love like things like if they're going out to do something like horror based, I want to feel sort of tension and sort of thing. So I think that's why I enjoyed the sort of like The Lady in Black was great, but sort of like I think Dracula just did it a bit better. But that again was fantastic because for the limited cast, they really got a visceral reaction out of people.
We talked about that, haven't we? On the I think was it episode 1 or episode 2? We talked about that actually, really early on. So it comes up quite a bit. It's interesting. I'm noticing the same few shows that we keep mentioning as being pinnacles. We will. We'll have to go and see some more. We'll have to do some stuff. As this on the little label.
Next favourite though, and I think this is just because it's just always been my favourite since a kid, was Rocky Horror. And I think I enjoyed it because it was for my 18th, so you know, we were all sort of like dressed up, going out sort of thing. And I had one of my friends who'd I enjoyed it so much. He'd never seen Rocky Horror before. He had no idea what it was, and he was quite proper, bless him. So he was a bit sort of like naive with things, and he didn't know what it was, but he was like, he googled a few images, and he went, I came dressed as the narrator, and I was like, I love the fact that you've come just to celebrate because you know that I enjoyed it so much, and I was thinking, but God help you when you actually see what the plot is about. And his face was like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, how did you find it? He was like, well, I didn't know what was happening, but I've still thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, oh, good, I'm glad. So it was just so fun, and I love the fact that people heckled, and that they got heckled on stage. Like, you know, not horrible heckling, but people did, and the actors gave it straight back. And I loved sort of the audience interaction, the fact it was sort of like my childhood fate. That's very weird that it was a childhood favourite of mine. I remember watching it when I was about 4, and my nan was like, what do you want to watch? I was like, this. I just love the fact it was bright and colourful. I love Frankenfurter. I didn't really fully understand what was happening until I was about 8, but I still loved it. Love Frankenfurter. He is.
When I saw Rocky Horror, it was 3 weeks after the Prince Andrew interview. So you can imagine what the heckles were like that night. And even the narrator was making the joke, and they changed the script immediately to reflect what had been going on. So I love the fact that there is so much good audience participation with it, and everyone gets dressed up for it. I love the fact that everyone gets dressed up and involved. And he's not seen it in
I haven't seen
person,
it.
which we are going to be changing hopefully soon.
You need to go and see it. It is great. It's good fun.
We need to sort that.
It is great fun, and everyone, even if you're not, you could be sat with people you didn't know, and you'd still enjoy it because everyone's just so.
And you'll dance with everybody.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
it's a great show. And my third one, again, mine are all quite sort of like dark ones. I loved Sweeney Todd. I absolutely love Sweeney Todd. Like I love the songs. I love the sort of story behind it. I don't really like sort of I don't like very happy things. I like things that are a bit dark.
Sorry, we should have pointed out it started snowing.
It started snowing. And we are still here.
We're still here. It's really cold. I'm sort of sitting on my hands to keep them warm.
Yeah.
Are you alright?
Yeah, my hands are frozen. I'm not moving.
We're going to get that. We're going to get him wrapped up in seconds.
I saw like a professional group doing it at Derby Theatre, and I think I just loved, because obviously they've got the sort of the rotating stage there. I loved sort of the interaction with it. I loved how they sort of worked from sort of the barbershop down to the oven and Mrs. Lovitz, and the actors were fantastic in it as well. It was a great cast, although me and my friend did kind of spoil it for my other friends who came with us. I don't laugh, I snore when I'm full on laughing. And the bit where, the judge has been a bit pervy on her in the room.
Yeah.
My other 3 friends and everyone else in the auditorium, absolutely silent.
Yes.
I turn to my other friend, I can see her shoulders going, I'm like, don't you dare, don't you dare. And then she's giggling and I'm like, I fun! And we were literally eye level with this dude. And then he just ranked it up even further because he could say that she's dying, I die. There was a 15-year-old boy behind us and he was just stony faced. Everyone was just looking at us and I just went, just smiling after. And then what topped it off for me, a piece of his whip flew off. I was gone at this time. A piece of his whip just went flying off. His whip came off. We were just dying and my other 3 friends are like, why have we brought you here? But, you know what, I think the judge enjoyed it because he full on racked up the action when he was on there as soon as he clocked us too.
Oh, brilliant.
And yeah, that just brings me happy memories.
There we go. I think that's a really good point to wrap up on because it's going to start snowing. We need to get under some form of
I think
gazebo
so.
or cover.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Adam, go in the greenhouse.
Oh, thanks. Cheers.
Genuinely go in the greenhouse and warm up a
Okay.
bit. Bye, Adam. We'll see you later.
I'm going in
What?
the greenhouse
Go,
to
just,
keep
I think
warm
if it's
and
not, there's a keys in
dry.
there. If it's not locked, just go in, get warm.
Thank
If
you.
he's frozen.
Bye,
It is
everyone.
actually snowing now, and we're probably still got some more to record, so we're going to try and work out a way of wrapping ourselves up even further. Thank you so much for suffering through this with us. Do you know, like, what's the child from It? That's what you look like. Georgie.
Hello, Georgie.
That's what you.
Do you want to believe?
You can go
I
in.
mean,
Oh, can I go in?
Yeah, go and warm up. I think it's unlocked, mate.
I mean,
Go and warm up.
if a creepy
The chair,
clown is offering you a balloon in the sewers, you would not go down there. But however, if he did have a cake, I probably would be tempted, if
Yeah.
I'm being honest.
Right, I'm freezing. I need to get in the colour. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or support us on Patreon. All the links are in the description. You can find us at Encore Offstage Pod. We also have a YouTube channel where we upload the video version of this podcast, and you can find that at the Encore Offstage Podcast. Please leave us a rating or review and comment, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Tell your friends. Share us. We want to try and get this to be
Share the theatre
get
love
some
around.
momentum going. Thank you so much for listening and watching. It's snowing in April. What? It's like April 11th. And then it's a hailstorm.
It's second winter, everybody. It's
right.
England's second winter.
We're gonna go. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.